pandemic got us into a reflective space and made us look inward to see what we can do for the world at large. As a self-expression coach, I became a catalyst for women and started Vani, a one-on-one coaching program for women on finding their voice, to speak up, to be visible. As a storyteller, I spotted there were many ordinary people amongst us leading extraordinary lives, making a difference to the world, and they needed to be heard. Thus was born You and I with Rashmi Shetty, where amazing personal journeys with their uniqueness and individuality are showcased. A reaffirmation of the fact, open your eyes wider, the world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Ashaita Mahajan, a true blue Mumbaikar who went on to pursue a master's degree in music management from the University of Sheffield, UK. Having a passion for the performing arts, music in particular, her professional life has included working on projects and with companies that function in the live entertainment space. After completing 4 years at the National Centre for Performing Arts in Mumbai, where she was actively involved in promoting arts and culture to the young people across the city, Ashaita landed her dream job at Sony Music International. However, she realized her calling was in the social sector shortly after and decided to give up her career in entertainment and become a full-time trustee. Her deep commitment to the cause is evident in her passion towards the work. She manages the marketing, promotions, and outreach activities undertaken by the Trust. She also plays a key role in fundraising and program development. Her cousin Aarti, who's on the autism spectrum, is her biggest inspiration and favorite person in the world. Listen in as Ashaita shares the vision and dreams of the Yash Charitable Trust, under which we have Cafe Arpan and Arpan Dabba service, where the teams primarily comprise persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or PWIDD. After reading your article, Ashaita, it's such a pleasure and honor to have you. Loved the work that you do, and just seeing that small little clip on LinkedIn, I was curious to understand what prompted you to be who you are. So, like the norm of this podcast, welcome to You and I with Rashmi Shetty, and I'd love to know what your journey has been from little Ashaita to the Ashaita that the world knows today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rashmi. It's my pleasure and honor to be on your podcast. This is actually my first podcast, so I'm excited and nervous, and I hope that I do a good job. My name is Ashaita Mahajan, born and brought up in Mumbai city. Little Ashaita was a very different person to who I am today. I think that when I was growing up, I never imagined that I would be working full time with an NGO associated with a cause. My school life, my education, everything was geared towards having a career in the music industry or the entertainment industry. I went to St. Xavier's College for 5 years, and I fell in love with the arts and entertainment through my stint with Malhar, which is our collegiate festival. I actually met my husband through that as well. He's a musician. So as you can tell, my life was geared towards a completely different area of work. It just so happened that, life had, things change. And as it happened, I was drawn back towards the social sector. A little bit about my history and my relation to social work is actually my mom. My mom is Veera Mahajan, nee Sidva, and she is a social activist and has been since she was in college herself. She did everything from she was an air hostess with Air India, and she was the first air hostess to actually get married and continue flying. And she was also the first air hostess to have a baby, which is me, and also continue flying. She took She took the airline and fought them in court and won. And in fact, just recently, she found these little newspaper clippings of her interviews in the newspaper back in 1989, and I was just blown away. Actually, 1987, I was just blown away seeing that. And my mom's always been a huge inspiration when it comes to social work. She worked with organizations like Samaritans that worked with people with mental health issues. She was part of a suicide helpline. So I guess social work runs in my blood, philanthropy runs in my family. And it just so happened that after spending about 7-8 years in the entertainment industry, working with event companies and music labels, I just found myself not happy. And when you work in the music industry and you find yourself feeling sad listening to music, that's a clear tell sign that this is not for you. And in 2017, I just decided to give all of that up. And now it's been 5 years of me officially full-time a part of the NGO world. And it's been very, very rewarding. It's been extremely satisfying, I have to say. Very challenging in parts, a lot of new learning, because I had never worked as a trustee before, and I didn't know what exactly that role would entail. But I think I've done my best, and hopefully, the journey forward is going to be even more exciting.
True, true. And when you don't know what you're getting into, I think that's where the beauty of the journey begins, because it makes it that much more beautiful, since the unknown to explore is far more interesting.
Yes.
So, Ashaita, when in college, you were part of art, you were part of creativity. And yes, you said influences of your mother definitely has a role to play. But what drew you to it? Was it something that you did in college and the effect of it stayed with you? How did you even get into this space of NGO? Have you tried it before you actually came back to it?
In a way, yes. So, I mean, even as a child, I actually used to go with my mom. Sometimes, she would bring some of her, not patients because she's not a doctor, but some of the people that she worked with, she'd bring them home. So my interaction with people with different disabilities, people with different challenges, was pretty normal in a way. But that's just one side of this. Actually, the work that I'm doing right now is directly connected with who is my favorite person in the whole world, which is my cousin Aarti. Aarti is a person with autism. And the work that I'm doing right now, Rashmi, is actually directly connected to that. I always had a social worker bone in my body, thanks to my upbringing. I used to volunteer at the Xavier's Resource for the Visually Challenged and be a reader and a writer for some of the visually impaired students. And I made friends over there as well. And one of them actually, even though I have to admit I'm not in touch with properly, but I'm still in touch with him. And it's really wonderful to know that there are you can make relationships with different kinds of people. You don't have to all be the same. So my work right now, and what drew me back into the NGO, or drew me full time to be a part of the NGO world, was my cousin Aarti. I say Aarti is my favorite person, and there is no exaggeration there. She's literally my favorite person, to a point where when you have a favorite person, you can even get mad at that favorite person. But so we have a very dynamic, fun, interesting, loving bond. Aarti and I were born 6 days apart, actually. Aarti's mother is Dr. Sushma Nagarkar, who is the founder of our trust. And we as a family grew up very close. So Aarti and Sushma and her other daughter, Divya, we all went on various family holidays, and we lived close by. We had a very deep bond that started at a very young age. And for me, Aarti never came across as being different. Perhaps for me at that age, I never knew what the difference was between being differently abled And myself, I mean, Aarti was just my sister, yeah. And so having her be a part of my life was a big, I think, it influenced me a lot. When she was when she just became a teenager, the family moved to the US. And so, even though they were far away, we still kept in touch pretty often. And this is before smartphones, and this is before easy Wi-Fi internet, and it was all, dial-up internet, and, using Skype and things like that, before Zoom was invented, I guess. So Aarti and I, we remained close, even if she wasn't here. And, family holidays, we had to go and spend time with them and visit them. And they were actually based in New Orleans. So Katrina happened, she really blossomed in the US. But when they decided to come back, I was the happiest person. So Sushma and Aarti actually moved back to India in 2014. And it was mainly for Aarti to now have a more long-term plan. And one thing that Sushma told me was that in the US, as much as Aarti was enjoying her life there, she had different activities. Sushma became a single parent shortly after moving to the US. And so her life actually became very, very busy because she had to work, she had to support her girls, she had to, and then she decided to also study further. And so Aarti ended up spending a lot of time by herself, which was not really, it didn't benefit her in any way. For someone like Aarti, who's such a social butterfly, she wanted to be around people. And because she wasn't getting enough of that, connection, she didn't have a community around her, Sushma didn't have that much backup. It was, I guess, a no-brainer for them to move back. And Sushma is all, daughter of the soil and wanted to, move back to India and set up something. And as my aunt, we are also very, very close. So I confide in her a lot, and even from a young age, it's not, we've always been very close. And so she moved back here, and she's like, "Do you want to sign up as a trustee?" I said, "Sure, obviously. I have no idea what that means, but yeah, I mean, it sounds cool. It'll look good on my resume if I ever, decide to go full time in this. And yeah, I want to support you no matter what. I'm really just happy that you're back, and let's do it." So for the first few years, it was pretty much Sushma running the show. With the trust, we started our first program, supported employment program, called Arpan Dabba Service at the time. And I would go there on weekends. So for me, I was working full time at the time at the NCPA, which is the National Center for the Performing Arts in Mumbai. And I was very happy over there. I was enjoying my work there. In fact, my work became a little NGO centric over there. So that also kind of, made me think, okay, I'm really enjoying this work. It's a combination of working with charities as well as, with the arts and crafts. So my job over there was to bring young people. So now young people doesn't necessarily have to be from an NGO, but, I interacted with a lot of Teach for India groups, lots of students, lots of teachers, lots of fellows. And me, myself, actually, I had applied for a Teach for India fellowship and I got rejected. So, but no hard feelings. It wasn't meant to be. I think what they do is amazing. I think their teachers are amazing, hats off to them. So even interacting with them through, that whole process also, I was really enjoying. So because I was working full time, it didn't make sense for me to, really put in that much into the trust. So I would go there on weekends. At the time, I was very, very active on social media, between Facebook. This was even before Instagram was there, was a big thing. So I would handle the social media because that's something I could do from afar. And, I shouldn't say this, but I spent a lot of time at NCPA managing my trust social media, managed to find time. But yeah, I mean, my bosses at NCPA had no complaints. They in fact gave me a big farewell party when I was leaving and said that they'll miss me. So that was very special. But I told them that the reason I wanted to leave was to do this. And it just reached a point where I felt like, it sounds very, idealistic in a way, but that whole thing of that calling you get, I felt it at that time. So I actually wrote an email to my whole family, including Sushma, of course, saying that, I want to stop working and I stop earning. And are you guys okay with it? Because I feel like my life needs a change in direction. I need more purpose. I was feeling a little stuck at where I was, because I'd been doing the same thing for 4 years by then, and I needed something more. And fortunately, I'm very, very blessed, Rashmi, to have a family that's as supportive and as amazing as mine. Everyone, I wrote, when I say my family's close, I have an aunt in the US also. I wrote to everyone saying, I need everyone's blessings on this, because if I don't have your blessings, I can't go forward with this. And I'm very family oriented, as you may have guessed by now. That for me, their approval was big. And of course, before all of that, my husband, I discussed this with my husband, not to leave him out. So it was important that everyone understood where I was coming from, what I wanted to do. And at the same time, I wasn't exactly sure where this was going to go. The timing of it all was just, I guess, perfect, because I quit my job. I decided, okay, I'm going to join the trust full time. And then we have to do something more with the trust. At the time, it was just a Dabba service. We had just about started a music group internally with all our specially abled team members. And so, something more had to come about. So
This music bit just came in because you spoke about the Dabba service. But the music bit was because of your musical leaning,
no,
and your husband, that music came in?
I wish it was, but it was not. So one of my co-trustees is a multi-instrumentalist, and his name is Dr. Rajiv Kamath. His daughter Pratibha is a sitar player. She's also a Bharatanatyam dancer, and they both actually, they recently relocated to Kerala, but they've been with us since the beginning. And Rajiv is still a trustee. So it was his initiative to start the music thing. This was actually before I joined full time. This was in 2016. He realized that there was music, of course, being such a therapeutic tool. It's known across everywhere for anyone, not just for the specially abled. I use music as therapy. So it was about trying to get the team members to play in sync and see if there was a way to create something out of that. And we formed the music group Tarang, which was very, very popular. We got to go and play at different venues. It was very nice. In fact, my cousin Aarti is also, of course, a musician. She plays the harmonium, the keyboard. She's classically trained as well. So she and Pratibha actually went and performed at the Gaiety Theatre, which is a very prestigious theatre in Shimla.
Yeah.
And so that was part of Tarang. But sadly, I didn't have that big a role in Tarang. But I do have a slightly bigger role when it comes to some of the other entertainment stuff we do, which I can also share with you.
Okay. And as part of the trust, Ashaita, from where do you get the children who come in? How do you pick them up? Do children just come and register to be part of your activities? Do you have a school? How does the trust run this entire urban services?
So, Rashmi, I hope you don't mind me correcting you, but we do not work with children at all. We work only with adults. And what happens is that when people come across our work and they want to talk to me about it, very often people tend to use the word kids or children because these individuals are looked at as lower functioning and therefore are treated as and considered children. And I mean this with no disrespect, of course. It's just that it's important for me as a spokesperson for what we do to guide people in a way where they use the correct language. because it's also connected to how we perceive the person that we're talking about. So the minute we use the word children, we end up talking to them as if they're children and treating them as if they're children. And so the minute we switch gears, use the word adult, the expectation is different. The communication is different. And when you refer to them, it's, I don't like talking about them as if they're children, because they are far from. In fact, it's so interesting, and there are sometimes no words for me to describe what an impact these individuals have had on my life. They're not children. They're all adults. They're all thinking, breathing, feeling. They're very, very intuitive. Some of them are so intuitive. Some of them are hilarious. They're comedians. Some of them are so sensitive. If I'm having a bad day, they just come and like, can we do something for you? What's wrong? Come and talk to us. My cousin Aarti that's why I keep saying she's my favorite. I will, if I'm having a bad day, Rashmi, and I granted, the work we do, it can get a little stressful. And so there are days when I'll, somehow, sometimes, lash out at Aarti. And of course, I only do this with Aarti because I feel like with my sister, as in that's completely wrong on my part. But it tends to happen with Aarti, and she is just the sweetest. She will not take it to heart, because it's almost like she knows I'm having a bad day, and I just need her to just tell me I love you. And she does that. She'll look at me and she'll be like, I miss you, or I love you, or she'll come and give me a hug. Or she knows this thing where both of us have this, both of us are Gemini, so we both be very moody. And Aarti is very moody, just like me. So she and I, we make faces to each other. And so she and I actually have our own language. We have code words for each other. When I'm trying to get her to be, to calm down, I'll use a code word. When I'm telling her, okay, you're being really, you're being very moody and nasty, and, behave yourself. So we have another word for that. So all of these individuals have so much to offer. And I see, and coming back to me thinking of them as adults, is I respect them a lot more. I see them as equals. I don't think, oh, poor thing, oh, bechara, bechari. No, none of that. There's just so much value being added across the board for everyone involved. But of course, specifically with me, I've developed a rapport with all my team members that only only I have the liberty to speak to them like that. It's almost like that, because they know that if I'm saying something to them, it's coming from me. And so it's very different if it's, say, coming from another staff member or something like that. I've developed that level of respect, understanding, and I think they like me for it, and they respect me for it.
Okay, so let me clarify here, Ashaita. So this NGO works with adults on the autism spectrum. Is that how it is?
So Yash Charitable Trust was set up to enhance the quality of life for adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. So that includes autism, which, as you know, is a spectrum. It's a spectrum. So you have no two people with autism are the same. Yeah. It also includes Down syndrome. It includes cerebral palsy, other intellectual disabilities. It's basically a neurological, neurodevelopmental condition, which either occurs at birth or very, very early in life. And so these are conditions that don't have a cure. But at the same time, I would never call it a disorder. I know it's ASD is autism spectrum disorder, but the minute you use the word disorder or disease, people should not think of them as being unwell or less than. Yes, they are specially abled. They are differently abled. The mind of a person with autism is very, very complex. You have high functioning, low functioning. So we have so many different people within our team that it's important for us also to see them as individuals, and we never generalize, we never judge. There is a next level of understanding and compassion within everyone at YCT, and it's important also that individuals are given customized are given, how do I say this? We use a customized approach when it comes to working with our team members. So we have a curriculum now. Of course, since we've grown to such a size, we have to actually put some processes, structure, all of that in place, and all of that has happened in a very organic way. When we started, of course, we had no idea what we were doing. It's all been a learning process. We've made mistakes, we've paid fines, we've paid penalties, but at the end of the day, there's a will, right? And so we'll find the way. And so, we work with our team members on a very individual basis. We don't compare. There's no competition. Each person is taken through the curriculum at their own pace. So we establish a baseline, of course, when they join us. And then, we put them through a process. And most importantly, everybody working with us, Rashmi, is working with us out of their own choice. We're very, very big proponents of self-determination. We think that every individual must have a choice. And for a lot of our team members, this is probably one of the first big choices that they've made for themselves. I think it's a big deal, especially because we're looking at our work as being a little different. We're very inclusive in all our programs. We run supported employment programs, not sheltered workshops, which are the current alternative to families that can afford it. We do not charge any fees for our training program. We pay salaries to all our team members. And as of this financial year, we have included PF and employee insurance as well. So we're trying to create an environment, trying to create an organization that is, it's two-pronged. So we are an NGO, and so we can fortunately avail of the benefits of being an NGO. And also we are trying to run a social enterprise, which is almost like a live demonstration of what is capable if our team members, which are PWIDDs, persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, are given a safe and supportive environment to work and earn and learn and thrive and just be a part of the community. So that's where Yash Charitable Trust is coming from.
Okay, because I really love this idea of inclusion coming so well. And when you spoke about a curriculum, Ashaita, here, when the team member comes to join the charitable trust for its activities, do you have a particular baseline from which you choose the team members who are eligible to be part of the team? And what is this curriculum all about?
Yes. So we have a very basic criteria for anyone who wants to join us. So one is that they have to be an adult. Anyone only above 18 can officially be a team member of Yash Charitable Trust. Apart from that, the person must have a disability certificate. And the third thing is that they must be able to use the facilities by themselves. So we don't want to have anyone who is unable to use the toilet by themselves. That I think is also linked to our need to have a certain level of hygiene that we can maintain without necessarily needing too many, supervisors or minders and that kind of stuff. We want people to see us as a professional organization where we don't want, we're not running a day. We established that we are not running a daycare center. So any parent or family that comes to us and says, please keep my son and daughter busy or occupied for the day, we say, I'm sorry, we're not interested in having people like that join us. Most importantly, the person needs to want to work with us. And when I say work, meaning work, that means you have a list of responsibilities. The parents and the families also must be as equally invested, because if the family is not interested, then this is not going to work. And we've had team members who've tried out and not liked the kind of way that we're functioning. They preferred the workshop model, which is fine. We in no way are saying we are better or not. We just want to provide an alternative. So when it comes to so I answered your question about the criteria. When it comes to them joining us, So this is all now after 5 years of being in operation. Now we have a structure in place where we have an interview process. So the individual will come with a family, be interviewed. We have to even, when talking to them, we'll get to know what that, we establish the baseline based on our interviews with them, what they like to do, what they want to do, where they see themselves going forward. Do they have any goals in life? What are their passions? So this is all just, we find that out during this interview. And then once the individual confirms and says, yes, I want to learn. Yes, I want to do, work in a cafe. Or even now we have somebody on our team who wants to be a trainer. So we are training this person, differently abled person, to be a trainer. And she's now training some of the junior trainees who've come in. And so it's like a full cycle. After they finish the training course, which is usually 6 months to a year, depending on each individual, they're put through this training module, which has been developed by us. I cannot share too many details about the curriculum because I'm not the one. I wouldn't be the right person to describe it. Right now, it is leaning towards the F&B industry because we are operating 2 and actually 3 programs related to F&B, food and beverage. So there are hard skills associated with, things like knife skills, mixing, making different mixtures, atta, how to make rice. I mean, the list is endless. Chopping skills. They have different kinds of, whether it's julienne or cubes, and so they're put through the training modules for that. Even things like how to hold a knife. We use all real kitchen equipment. We do not use plastic. We have a first aid kit, and we have a doctor that's located close by in case any emergency. But fortunately, nothing like that has happened. I think maybe a couple of burns and nicks and cuts, but then we all, hurt ourselves in the kitchen anyways while we're cooking. And then apart from the hard skills, we also have soft skills training. So soft skills can include things like just communication, simple communication. How do you interact with someone? What is good touch, bad touch, appropriate language, not appropriate language? So for example, in the cafe, what would be, how do you interact with your customers? Being polite, teaching them things like how to say thank you, please, sorry. I'm not saying that I'm just generalizing here. Some of our team members, of course, already are well versed in that. Some need that extra help. Again, this is all depending on what they want to do. So if a person wants to be a greeter, that person will be trained more extensively on their communication skills. If a person is just interested in cooking and just loves recipes, then we will focus our training on those things that the individual likes. So I always say that we work within a strength-based framework, which means that we identify the strengths and then, hone in on those and try and develop those particular skills. We focus on the ability, not on the disability.
And the ability is a choice of the individual, because you said if a person wants to be a greeter, wants to try new recipes, which means you see where their interest is or what they state is their area of interest that you train them.
I definitely the former, what you said, we ask them, and a lot of them actually know, Rashmi, what they like doing, or they'll communicate it in some way. They'll show it to us in some way. Taking Aarti as an example, I mentioned to you earlier, she's a social butterfly.
Yeah.
So for her to be a greeter was a no-brainer. Putting her in the kitchen, she is not going to remember any recipe. Her mind is fixated on, we have music playing in the cafe, which I curate. And it's so funny. So, there'll be music playing. And if Aarti is just sitting and, we don't have any, she's not actively serving someone or greeting someone, she's listening. Her attention is entirely on the music. And so whenever a song ends, she claps and she cheers when the song ends. And it's the cutest and sweetest and, heartwarming thing for me, because very often you'll see if a customer is sitting there, they'll just suddenly, look up because she started clapping and people are wondering why she's clapping, because not everyone is tuned into the music like Aarti is. And I am as well. So I know where this is coming from. And it's so cute because she's just so happy and clapping, and the customers join her. And I think that's just so wonderful. Or they'll smile at her, they'll, encourage her. And it's just such a lovely moment. And, it just adds to the environment and the ambience that we're creating at Cafe
Yeah,
Arpan.
it really shows. It definitely shows. And
Yeah,
your commitment to the whole thing and belief in that intent, the power of intent, is so wonderfully coming out, Ashaita. And that's what is
thank you.
making this conversation that much more deeper.
Thank you.
Uh, and when we talk about the Yash Charitable Trust, under that comes Arpan Dabba Services,
Yes.
where people become your clients for dabbas to be delivered at their offices with recipes done at Cafe Arpan. Is that how it is?
So we started with the dabba service, which is primarily just ghar ka khana, home cooked, fresh. We try and be as health conscious as possible, so not going overboard with oil and salt. And of course, now with inflation, we want to actually cut down. We've actually developed our menu in a way that our team members can, make the stuff. So we don't look at very elaborate recipes. We're not looking at very fancy food. Having said that, we have a mix of continental and Indian and Asian cuisines that we offer. Where we experiment with Mexican and Lebanese, and we're trying to, because for our team also, it's then more interesting to learn new recipes. And the ones that are interested actually have a book and they write it down. So our Dabba kitchen operates separately from our cafe kitchen. So our cafe is more, the food is more snacky, your pizzas, pastas, burgers, sandwiches. Sandwiches is a big deal because, we started out with using pao, the pao, the pan maska pao. But we have now graduated to baking and making our own bread. We bake our own focaccia bread. That is another way for our team members to also, constantly be involved. So it's nice because both the kitchens sort of work together, but they also operate differently. So the team members who are assigned to the kitchen are the ones that want to work in the kitchen. The team members who want to work at the cafe are assigned to the cafe. So again, we're giving them a choice. The people who want to work at both are given that as well. So there's a schedule that's created based on that. So the recipes for both the kitchens are different, but occasionally now and then, say we have a garlic bread on our cafe menu, we'll send it as a Saturday or a Sunday special, along with a pasta and a brownie, which is also made at our cafe. So yeah, we keep things interesting, but usually they operate separately.
Okay. This is interesting, Ashaita. And you spoke about two kitchens happening parallelly. So beyond kitchen, is there something else that the charitable trust works around, especially when you're dealing with adults having different challenges? Is there some other activity that happens also through the charitable trust?
So at the moment, Rashmi, we run two supported employment programs that are in the food and beverage part of the food and beverage industry. We realize that food being such a common denominator that people can understand easily. It's language agnostic. So it just so happened that we decided to start with food. We have attempted to branch out into different other kinds of work as well. Unfortunately, we've not been very successful yet. We are looking at creating new programs with woodworking and hydroponics. So hydroponics is something that would be, I think, very beneficial and therapeutic in a way. And so we're working towards that. Of course, in a city like Bombay, it's very difficult to find space. And asking for a garden space or any space where we will be allowed to grow plants is even more challenging. But we're working towards it. We're doing our best. But that is one, actually, supported employment and skilling is one vertical under Yash Charitable Trust. We have a second vertical called Adult Support Kendra, which is basically our counseling and therapies vertical. So we do provide counseling to PWIDDs as well as their families. We provide therapies in the form of enrichment sessions that we run every week. So we have professionals who come and take classes in music, dance, art and craft, yoga and meditation. We try and, because we want to expose our team members also to a variety of activities that they can then benefit from. So every day, for 5 days of the week, we have different classes. And it's wonderful because now we see it also gives our team members a chance to engage with and interact with one another. But overall, also it's towards the growth and development of the individual.
True, very true. And caregiving is also sometimes very draining. So, is there something that you do for the caregivers as well, beyond just counseling? Is there something that you help them with?
So at the moment, we don't provide extensive support to our caregivers, but I think that all the families, so YCT is a family. We always call ourselves the YCT family. And so I can tell you for a fact, Rashmi, that every family member, as in all our team members and their respective families, they can always, they know that we are there to support them in whatever needs that they have. I should have mentioned this earlier, but Sushma is actually a psychologist herself. She's a special educator, and she's of course a parent, so she can connect with and understand and relate to families and parents and other caregivers of special needs adults. And with adults, of course, it's very very necessary because they're going through a transition phase in their life. And with NGOs working with children or adults, or rather children with autism, there's a lot more support. There's things like early intervention that can be done. But people tend to forget that these same children, especially able children, become adults who are specially abled. And so when they cross that 18-year-old threshold, there's not that many options and opportunities available to them. So our focus is on our team members and the adults, but by relation, of course, we extend that support onto the families as well, but not directly only focused on that. So most of our parents of the specially abled adults that work with us, a lot of them are actually volunteers of ours. So, for example, we have one parent who is actually a teacher, and she has brought her teaching skills to YCT and now doubles up as, she takes literacy classes. She's a fantastic trainer on the job at the cafe. So, I mentioned strength-based framework. We actually look at the strengths of our family members, as in the parents of our team members as well. And, we've been very fortunate to have a wonderful group of parents who've been very supportive. And I think that in some roundabout way, that is also providing them with some support and therapy. I hope they don't mind me saying this. I'm sure at least some of them will agree with me. Just having this support system is I think we're very proud of.
Yeah, very, very true. And any stories or moments, because you've shared so many with Aarti. So any other person in your team
Lots.
who gave you those goosebump moments and which will remain with you as long as you're here?
Oh gosh, there are so many. There are really a lot. I mean, I love talking about my team members, and in fact, that's why I mentioned it was awkward for me to talk about myself, but I happily talk to you about all my team members. So stories, there are many. So I'll tell you a few of them. So one of our team members, I think it's okay to name names if I'm just naming the first name. So we have a slightly senior team member by the name of Sudha. Sudha has MS, multiple sclerosis, and she's slightly older also. So at the moment, she is unable to come back to work full time because her family is a little concerned, especially we've just coming out of the COVID scare. I mean, at least the third wave, who knows if there's a fourth wave. So Sudha, before the pandemic, was a regular employee at Cafe Arpan. Now, because of her MS, when she first joined us, Sudha was very, very, very scared of taking a single step without somebody holding her. So she used to come with like a minder of hers. And when I met Sudha for the first time, she would like, she's very strong-minded. And so if she did not want to take a step, she would be stubborn enough to stand in that one place and not move for like at least half an hour. So my intention was to get her to just break out of this fear. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have any degree in special education or anything like that. But my plan was to use common sense. My plan was to just say things to her that, positive reinforcement works wonders. And I think that applies to anyone. So all I did was for a few months, I just went up to Sudha, and every time she said, I can't, I said, yes, you can. And, not that I'm copying Obama, but that became my slogan for her. And so every time she'd be like, no, I'm scared. I'm going to fall. I said, okay, fall. I'm there now to catch you. And she's a little bigger than me. So I was really, pushing it by telling her, it's okay, I'll catch you. And over a few months, Rashmi, her fear dissipated. I'm not saying it went away completely, but she was able to, go from hold my hand for every step to take a full tray of beverages, full to the brim, and serve people at the cafe. And I love telling this story because it's not about my encouragement, but it's about the fact that after a point, Sudha stopped saying I can't. She said, you know what? Let me try. And I'm like, yes, you're going to try. And say 5 steps in, you get stuck. I'm going to come and help you. Because that's what this place is about. We're supporting each other. We're working together. You and I are equal. There's no, there's nothing will happen if you drop the tray. What's the worst? We'll get a mop and we'll clean it up. No, why are you scared? So the way I said it right now to you is how I would talk to them. Almost like a matter of fact, like prove me wrong. It was almost like I was challenging them to say that, okay, fine. You think you're going to fall? Let's fall together, So I think that over time that worked. And I'd like to say that, she was really, really confident after all those, all that positive reinforcement I was sending her way. And of course, this is not me alone. This is a team effort. I always, I feel uncomfortable speaking about myself in this context, only because I alone am not responsible for what we have created. Yes, in 2017, I did quit my job, and Sushma and I did put all our efforts into starting Cafe Arpan. Maybe that's why I'm okay and comfortable being referred to as a co-founder, but in no way am I the owner or the operator or the manager. We are a wonderful team of trustees. We have an incredible team of staff members that work diligently with us. And of course, then we've got wonderful volunteers. And none of this would be possible without the team members, of course. So it's one big happy family working together to support one another. I realized that I was telling you one story and then I went into another thing. I'm happy to tell you more stories.
Please go ahead.
Sure? Okay. So we have one individual. His name is Anand. Anand is a very, very particular, meticulous, young man. He lives actually fairly close to the cafe. So he works pretty much 6 days a week. If these guys had an option, they would work 7 days a week, because for them, work is, some of them get tired, but they enjoy it. They really, really enjoy it. And I can tell because on the weekends, it's like, oh no, I want to do the weekend duty, because weekends we usually get more customers. So Anand is somebody who's so particular that, because he lives close by, he won't leave the cafe until we put the shutter down. So usually he's the last one to leave with the manager or the this kitchen assistant who pulls the shutter down. Sometimes Anand wants to pull the shutter down as well. So, days when he has to leave early, it's like I have to literally say, Anand, get out. You're going to be late for whatever engagement or commitment that you have. And he will take 10 chakkars around the cafe. No, where is the key? Where is the lock? Do you know what you have to do? Okay, this is how you pull it down. This is where that stick goes, where you pull the shutter down. And I'm like, Anand, you're like sitting on my head and, grandfathering me through this whole process. And we know I know how to do it. Chill out, go. I'll handle it. You can rely on me. Maybe in a regular, normal setting, people might be like, no, I'm done with work. I've punched out. That's it. My responsibility is ended. Anand stays till the end, until the shutter goes down. And I think that that's so commendable. That's just such a wonderful, trait to have. And we love him for that. So, Anand actually is the only team member that has a key to the cafe because of that. He's so responsible that we have given him that responsibility of having a key when, in case anything happens, he's our go-to because he lives close by. So that's another story that I love telling. Another wonderful story is we have a young lady by the name of Nandini. Nandini is a person with Down syndrome, and her family, actually her mother is the one who's the teacher. And so Nandini, when she first joined us, she was very slow, like in everything from her movement to her speech. And because my whole approach with them is to first become their friend. I don't want any of these team members to see me as an authoritative figure or a boss or anything. I always establish you and I are the same. We make the same mistakes. We have the same ups and downs. It's perfectly fine as long as you see me as your equal, and I'm seeing you as my equal. So Nandini, one of the things that I tried. I wasn't sure how it was going to work. So I started calling her slow-mo. And initially she didn't react, but slowly she was like, I don't like you calling me that. So I said, okay, so what do we do about it? Shall we do something about it together so that I stop calling you slow-mo and then I'll start calling you something else, like Speedy Gonzalez or something. And over time, Nandini has just developed to a point where she no longer is slow. Now she does everything at a pace that is, that she's comfortable with, that we're comfortable with. And now as a joke, I don't say slow-mo, I say fast-mo. I don't call her speedy, but she registers that I've changed the slow to fast. And one day I went to her and I asked her, I was like, Nandini, what do you feel about working? Like, why do you like working here? And she says to me, I can put nail polish and I can color my hair. And I was just shocked because I was like, what do you mean? She said, so before she joined us, she was going to a sheltered workshop, which was part of a school. And they had uniforms and they had rules for, how a person should dress. And she was 20, I think, at the time. And so for her to suddenly switch from having to wear a uniform and following school rules at the age of 20, she was suddenly an independent young woman making her own decisions of what color nail paint she wanted, what color hair, what color highlights she wanted. She wears matching jewelry. She picks her own clothes. She's very stylish. And she's very, very strong-minded. And she will tell you, like the other day, I'd mistakenly called her slow-mo. She caught me and she's like, excuse me, like, I'm not slow anymore. How dare you call me that? And I had to apologize. I said, you know what, Nandini, you're right. I had a, momentary lapse. And, you're absolutely right. And, so Nandini, and she's very good on the phone. She writes messages. She calls, people from time to time. A lot of our team members actually love sending. We have a WhatsApp group, actually. And so we have a WhatsApp group just for team members. And I'm the moderator just in case someone, accidentally deletes themselves off the group. But it's such fun to see sometimes the banter that gets exchanged on that group. Because we have people who are very active on WhatsApp and smartphones. And then, of course, some who aren't. But some of the stories that come out of there also are quite entertaining. So, yeah. That's the third story. I'm sure if you want me to go on. I told you many about Aarti already. So that's four different people.
So when it comes to the general public, companies are now having policies of inclusion as part of their norm. But when it comes to general public, have you seen moments where you feel the so-called normal people need more education?
Oh, 100%. I definitely think that there has been growth in the last 5 years. Not 5 years, 3.5 years since the cafe has opened, because I want to believe that all the customers coming in have been sensitized and just made a little bit more aware, especially those who have come in without knowing who we are and what we do. So, having said that, I know that if we can make a small impact through that, there's a long way before we make a larger impact. I think it's important if companies and people in positions of power can use that power to actually create a much more wider impact of the kind of work we're doing. And I don't mean specifically us. I mean that anyone, like you mentioned, the diversity and inclusion initiatives within corporates, it's mandatory. But at the moment, I think it's focused more on physical disability, and I'm not faulting anyone on that. I know how challenging it can be for a corporate or any employer to accommodate the special needs and skills of an individual with an intellectual disability or developmental disability. But places like ours is proof that it's possible. It may not be possible, say, in an environment where very focused attention into detail and things like that are involved. But we've proven that at least in F&B, it's possible. There are people on the spectrum who are geniuses. I mean, they've made movies on this. So we know that there should be accommodation made for that. It's unfortunate, though, that still there are companies out there and big companies who still discriminate. And, even though they may hire somebody who's on the spectrum, that individual may not necessarily be treated well. And we have come across some horror stories of of PWIDDs being discriminated, abused, assaulted, and this has to stop. I mean, on one hand, we want people to employ different people, but at the same time, their colleagues, their other employees need to be equally sensitized, and I think there are changes being made. I'm happy to share that we are currently collaborating with a very big corporate who has invited us to set up a cafe at their headquarters in Vikhroli. The company is Accenture. We're very, very proud of our association with them. They've been incredibly supportive with all our needs, to a point where even they're providing us with transport because we're based in Juhu, so it's very far for traveling. So if the great thing is, through our experience at Accenture, we have seen that we are not only providing opportunities for our team members, but sensitizing all the staff at Accenture that comes and buys coffee or sandwiches or whatever they feel like eating from our menu. And I know that, I've gotten feedback from everybody who goes to Accenture to volunteer to work, is that all the staff there is just so welcoming, and they're so friendly, and they're so sensitive to our team members. And, they instead of going downstairs to the tapri wala for chai coffee, they come to the Cafe Arpan booth pop-up that we have there. And I think that that's wonderful. And I think that if we can expand on that, if other corporates, say, were to be interested in supporting those kinds of projects that we run, why not? That could be another step in the diversity and inclusion program, not necessarily hiring someone just as a token. At the end of the day, this individual mustn't be treated as an object, right? Give him or her that respect that they deserve, and give him or her that share the value that they're bringing to your life and to your company. And if you focus on their, assign work based on their skills, I think everyone will be better for it.
True. Very, very well said and beautifully put, Ashaita.
Thank you.
And at this point, Ashaita, we are towards the end of the conversation with this entire podcast idea. Got into action also in the pandemic.
Right.
So, if there are reflections of the pandemic for you, what would those reflections from the pandemic?
Honestly, the pandemic came at a time when I think all of us, across the world was couldn't believe that this happened, that the whole world shut down. I think it gives us perspective on what's important. I think it made me celebrate the little things a lot more. It showed me that my team members are so resilient. I mean, it's unbelievable. We were really concerned about their mental health during the 2 years, or rather 1 year, that a lot of them did not leave their homes. Keeping them meaningfully engaged was top priority for us. And the way that they all just took to Zoom, it's unbelievable. I had to actually create like a rule book for Zoom, to get them to follow those rules. Because I was like, just because you're sitting at home, that doesn't mean that, you just, sit with your feet up and come on, let's have some decorum. So I became almost like their teacher. And, but they were all just so resilient. We put a routine in place for them that they had to follow when they were at home. Whether it was practicing their recipes and doing a bunch of house chores, and then of course we had all our activities planned for them. We shifted it to Zoom, all the enrichment. I think that seeing how they embraced the new reality, the new norm, was amazing. I think that a lot of people struggled a lot with the pandemic and being stuck at home. I wouldn't say that everyone in my team had it easy. I know that for a lot of them it was very challenging, especially for some of those who do come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. We did our best, Rashmi, and I'm proud to say that we continued paying everyone who needed it. A lot of team members, of course, said we don't want to be paid. We'd rather you save that money and put it towards whatever other expenses that we had to incur. Our landlords for the cafe were very, very supportive. They did not increase our rent. Of course, we had to continue paying because for them also it's an income. But we did a crowdfunding campaign, which was very, very successful. And it showed us also, it motivated us that, people want Cafe Arpan to be around. Arpan means offering. So Cafe Arpan and Arpan Dava service are our offerings to our city. And, it's wonderful to see that we have survived. It's not been easy, I must say. It's very challenging. And we hope that we will, now that the pandemic has ebbed a little bit, we hope to reach pre-pandemic sales again. We hope to resume a lot more work, and hopefully we will start more cafes like we have, pop-up cafes like we have at Accenture.
And other than Mumbai, are there Cafe Arpans anywhere else in India?
I wish, but no. It's very, very expensive to start something like this, Rashmi. And so I always, whenever people say we want to start a cafe like this, I bow down to them and say, please do that, because Yash Charitable Trust, is a small NGO still. We're still growing, and we don't currently have the bandwidth or the manpower, most importantly, and of course the resources to be able to expand beyond our city and be able to set up more such cafes. I know that there are many restaurants out there who are hiring persons who are visually impaired or hearing and speech impaired. Perhaps they could extend it to people who are differently abled, who have developmental or intellectual disabilities, and maybe assign, again, like I said, assign them work based on what they're good at, and have a sensitization module introduced for your staff, for your other staff. We have successfully placed one of our team members at a fairly big, well-known restaurant / hotel, and that individual has done so well. He was recently absorbed as a full-time employee and as an official employee of that restaurant. So that is one very positive story. But on the other hand, we placed somebody at a restaurant, and unfortunately that restaurant has shut down, but that individual was exposed to inappropriate material, inappropriate behavior in the kitchen. And these are things that should not happen, because if we as human beings cannot be sensitive to another human being's needs, then the human race is not going in a very good direction, you know. And I think that with us at Cafe Arpan, I think all our staff members that we have who are, you know, neurotypical, that's the word we use. We know the impact that we have made in their lives. We know that now, I mean, how many people can brag about having a person on the spectrum as their best friend or as their favorite person? I can. You know, I think I know what value Aarti and all my team members add to my life and how much richer I have become because of it. I have become a better person because of my team members. I never had this level of patience and understanding and compassion before. Now it seems like this is what I was supposed to do, you know, and I'm fortunate enough to do it. And if more people can just follow suit and just be sensitive, you know, just be nice. I think people have stopped being nice to one another. And I guess being surrounded by my team members, you know, it's almost like now it's the norm. One must always be nice and sensitive to others.
Hopefully, the pandemic has taught us that, Shaita, because I feel the value of life has been understood by a lot of us
Yeah.
post-pandemic, but the perils of forgetting these lessons also are there with life slowly hopping back to be normal.
Yeah.
And three life lessons, Ashaita, that you'd like to leave us with.
I have learned in the last few years is that, you know, just because somebody says something is difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. We've been exposed to a lot of critics and cynics saying, you guys are mad. What are you all doing? This is just going to bleed you guys dry. And yeah, maybe we're not breaking even, but can you imagine the amount of good karma and brownie points we're all earning? And it's not about earning, of course, but you know, we're spreading goodness in the world, and I think that sound you know, accounts for a lot. So yeah, I think, you know, don't not do something. Where there's a will, there's a way. I think that's important to believe, and you know, don't judge people too quickly. I think that you know, if through engaging and interacting with my team members, I know for a fact that a lot of people have become less judgmental. And I'd like to think that that would be a great stepping stone to an individual just becoming a better human being. So I think that if you can find a way to not judge, don't judge a book by its cover, right? So same thing. I think that applies to everyone and anything. And I don't know, thirdly, I guess I found my passion and I found maybe a purpose in life. And so, you know, if you're blessed to be in a position where you can work and do things for others and dedicate your life for the well-being of others, do it. You know, money isn't everything. And if you can, and again, I have met some incredible people on my journey for the last 5 years of being a trustee. You know, we've met people through the you know, various connections and networks of the NGO sector. And there are so many wonderful people doing such amazing work. And I feel very honored to be a part of that group now. And so, you know, I guess that would be the three things that I would share.
Because the purpose of calling this You and I is all about exploring the uniqueness that each of us carries and the individuality with the stories that we take forward and would love to leave behind. And I feel when I meet people like you, Ashaita, you come into my life and I spot you somewhere as random as a LinkedIn post with a purpose for a reason. And you make it seem so easy to move from human doings to human beings. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your journey, your life, the influences and the stories. Such an honor to have you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It's been my pleasure. And thank you for sharing our story, including us on your platform. And I hope that this will encourage your listeners to also think beyond, you know, do a little bit more if possible. But at the end of the day, if anyone of your listeners is based in Mumbai, please do come to Cafe Arpan. Please do order dabbas from us, support our work. I know that, you know, we've been around for a while. We want to stay as long as possible. We are an NGO, and so our crowdfunding and our fundraising will always be on. But that's not to say that we are, down in the dumps in any way. We're working very hard towards keeping our operations going, and we just need your support and blessings. So thank you so much for having me on your show, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day.
Definitely. And all I can tell you is Amen, Tatastu, and I'm sure the universe has a reason why the two of us have met. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thhirdeye@gmail.com. Come, let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.